I can't in any way speak with a lot of experience or knowledge in AI. So
Had mentors like that who've made such an impact in our lives. I think it is also the onus comes on us to kind of be mindful of the things that we're doing and just doing things in the benefit of students so that we can just pass that motivation along.
hard work and respect becomes something that becomes who you are.
Kids see you or their teachers being someone who is consistently wanting to learn and grow, I think you model that for your students. So I think that is incredible. So we've spoken about the welcome to the podcast, listeners. Leading a small rural district comes with unique challenges, but it also comes with unique opportunities. Today, we're joined by Derrick Conley, Superintendent of Alto ISD in East Texas. With nearly 30 years in Texas education, Derrick is known for his relationship driven, culture focused leadership, emphasizing teacher support, student success, and community engagement. Under his guidance, Alto ISD has deepened connections, boosted morale, and created a district where students and educators can alike thrive. Welcome to the podcast, Eric. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
We are really excited about this podcast. So, I think I'd love to know a little about your journey in education. So, how was it first that you entered education, and do those motivations still guide you to your work today?
Yeah, so I feel fortunate. Mark Twain says that there's two days that are most important in your life: the day you were born and the day you find out why you were born. And I feel like I had my first educational experience in college in a business degree, and I was working in that, and um, just wasn't really satisfied. I felt like something was missing, and I started helping um, uh, a little league baseball team, coaching it. And, it was my dad, who I appreciate, and he doesn't even remember this story, but he told me, "You're really good with kids. Have you thought about being a teacher and a coach?" And it was that moment on that I became I began working in education. I like the opportunity that we have to serve, and we have. This has been a great experience. I always, your question was what motivates me, and I just want to give back because I think, and this is my 29th year in education, and I've gotten a lot more from being in education as an educator, the profession, than I think I've ever given it. I want to give back. I want to be able to continue to help um, kids first, but then also from some of my experiences, the things that have worked and maybe haven't worked, be able to help other educators. And that's why I appreciate the opportunity today to share, and hopefully, I hope would be today and every day that what we do here at Alto could inspire someone else.
And I think that's an incredible motivator. And I think a lot of that credit does go to your dad back in the day when he, made that comment about you being great with kids. So yeah, that is
Mhm.
incredible for us to know. So looking back on your career, what experiences or moments do you think most shaped your approach to your leadership today?
In the first 15 years of my as a teacher, I was also an athletic coach. I coached football and baseball, and I think a lot of what I do has been shaped by some of that. My just to be the to do that well, and you ask a lot out of kids, and to do that, you really have to build relationships, and you have to have a connection. And I think it takes me back to a lot of my mentors. I think back to the people that really were an influence on me when I was growing up. I want to be more like them. And a lot of that, um, the ones that made me thrive, not just survive, were the ones that I knew cared about me. And so, being my career, when you look at my experiences, a lot of that shaped me. And then about 15 years ago, I became an elementary principal, and there's a lot of alignment there that I think it has helped. But I think it's always about in schools, it's about two things. It's about building relationships first, and then it's about inspiring somebody to grow. And I think if you get that connection um, that allows a student or a teacher or a principal to feel valued, appreciated, and safe in taking risk, confident in that, then you can really create some measurables that allow them to grow. And so my right now the highlight of if I look back at my almost 30 years, um, my highlight right now would be a school that I started as my second time to be an elementary principal, and it was a place that in it's a place that's close to Alto, but it was a uh, East Texas elementary school that was really struggling and had struggled really with the culture being more of that everyone involved in it just didn't really feel that there was hope. And um, with building relationships and inspiring growth, the biggest thing you do is you want to bring people together, but then you want to create hope. And I think uh, a focus on growth, focus on progress, we all want that. Even you in this taking these time to visit with me and people that are watching this, we all want to feel like we're working towards something. But that moment that I had, or that it's really it was 7 years I was at the school and moved in different roles in that school. But I'm so proud of that team and what we did together to give others the connection, but then the confidence to move towards growth and give that progress to where we were all working with a purpose, and the purpose is always kids. But I'm so proud of it was at Pine Tree ISD and the role that I had there, and really because of that role, it's given me an inspiration to try to create that in another place. And that's what I love about this place at Alto. I see a lot of similarities. We have a lot of kids from um, much like Pine Tree, economically disadvantaged. Just a lot of the kids that need us. And I want to be somewhere where I can help. And I feel that's what I love about this community and these kids and these people. And they've been very receptive to that, to allowing us an opportunity to serve. And so, but when your answer to the question is looking about my career, there's been a lot of things that have shaped who I am, and a lot of people that I appreciate that helped me along the way. But the highlight for me has been my evolution into a leader has really one of my most proud moments is Pine Tree at Birch Elementary, and then how that's given me momentum to help others. I have in other schools in that district, but then I'm excited about what's happening here now at Alto because of that experience.
Hmm. And I think having those good mentors in the beginning of your career always just gives a person that sort of a guiding light so that you won't be like them. So that is incredible for us to know. So since we're talking
Can I
about
can I can I add something to that?
sure.
You never know when you're going to have a chance to make a difference.
Yeah.
Like the moment I talked about earlier with my dad, he doesn't even remember that, but that was just a small
Yeah.
interaction. And
Hmm.
so the mentors, we're all mentors. We're all modeling what we
Hmm.
hope in a
Hmm.
culture all
Hmm.
the time. I
Yeah.
think it's important for us to make. We have a responsibility there, and so you never know when you have a chance to make a difference. So you always have to try to find those opportunities and make the most of them.
Yeah. And since we've had mentors like that who've made such an impact in our lives, I think it is also the onus comes on us to kind of be mindful of the things that we're doing and just doing things in the benefit of students, so that we can just pass that motivation along the students that we're mentoring right now. So that is amazing. So I would love to know what are some unique challenges and opportunities that you've been facing leading a small rural district like Alto ISD.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, we have a group of kids that really need us.
Hmm.
They need, and I love that. And I, being in a rural area, you really, and I grew up in a town like this, so I feel a connection to that. I grew up 12 years in a small school like this, and I know how that small community, um, it takes a village to raise every child, and so that community really is um, here and again where I grew up. It's more, you know, we want to teach our kids not just academics but character. You know, what does it mean to give your best? What does it look like to work hard? What does it mean to be respectful and responsible? Because honestly, hard work and respect becomes something that becomes who you are if it's practiced, and if it's and you know, we want that to be what our kids, not just the academic side, but they gain from us is how to give your best, how to get along with others. Because I think if you look at any job, um, whether it's a superintendent, whether it's um, a mechanic, whether it's a doctor, if you can do those two things, then you're gonna have an advantage over most of the other people that are competing you for that position. 90% of the people, if you can do those two things well, so those soft skills, I think are, and especially in a smaller area like this, a rural area, I think we have a responsibility to expose them to that, but then also expose them to opportunities that might not have existed. I mean, even I'm fascinated with how well our career and technology department gives our kids exposure to things that, quite frankly, I never would have thought about when I was in school at a small school. So I think I love that we do that, and we want to continue to grow in that. But like, I think kids that we want them to see. I mean, there's great things about staying in this community, but there's also other opportunities that may give them a chance to have the kind of life that they want outside of, uh, and giving them that exposure. You know, and I think, like you mentioned, we used the word mentor the other day, and that's just if they can see. And one of the things I love and our we've done here is really kind of connect our alumni that have had success, so our kids can kind of see, you know, they grew up in the same environment I'm in, and they're successful. It gives them some hope to do the same thing.
Yeah. And I think when they see someone who's already made it because just doing something great with their lives, I think, yeah, it just gives them that hope that, if they can do it, why can I not do it? So that is incredible. You were also
Right.
talking about fostering connections and working in collaboration. So your 100-day entry plan focused heavily on listening to the stakeholders. What insights did you gain about your district during that period?
Oh, just a lot of. I want to try to look at the positives that they believe in and what we can get better at. And I think the positives were just the way this community just comes together. You know, when in times of need. Honestly, it's incredible, and it's a it's extraordinary. Really, there's been a lot of small and major things that have happened here, and it shows really, what do you do? What is your family? What is the school? What is your neighborhood? What does the community do in times of need? And throughout, the common theme was when I met with stakeholders is this place is a place that truly cares about each other, and you can count on your person next to you. So I love that part. So I learned that sense of community pride in meeting with everyone. And then the second part really is just how do we utilize that in communication and alignment in those two ways, because those are key areas in schools. Like, what are we doing to be intentional, where we take that pride and then we utilize that to do some of the things that we mentioned earlier, as far as you know, just maximizing the potential of every person. That's really it. I mean, and not just what they do with us now, but what they're going to be able to do in the future. So listen to that. Listen to the pride. I think would be the biggest thing that I gained. But then the thing is the responsibility that comes with me being a school leader here. but then how do we best communicate and align everybody together so we're moving, like I mentioned earlier, in that common purpose, which the purpose has always got to be what's best for kids.
Mhm. So, extending that conversation around connection, how do you cultivate a culture of connection and confidence among your staff and students? So, are there any specific practices or any courses or any activities that you do to kind of cultivate that?
Yes, I mean, I'm one of the things as a teacher. It's literally almost 3 decades ago that I experienced as a teacher. I think when I first started teaching, like most first year teachers, maybe even more than others, I was being able to get the balance of what it takes to have a high expectations and also connect with kids. I didn't have that great of a balance, so I did a training that was called Capturing Kids Hearts, flipping group. Great program, and honestly, I picked up some of those intentional things that program uh, taught me. But then I didn't really think about it until about 15 maybe 14 years later, when I was a first time I had the opportunity to be a principal. I said, I need something that's consistent that we're using. And I didn't really look at Capturing Kids Hearts as a program. It was more like a guide, a framework, a guideline to build relationships. And so I said, what, I want to make sure if I'm ever a leader, that I give them that type of training. And we did at that school. At the schools that I mentioned at Pine Tree, even after that school, were all there's 4 campuses that I supervised previously at Pine Tree, and all of those were. I'm sorry. Let's see. Two of those, the one I mentioned earlier that I started at, has been a national showcase school, and so receiving awards. Well, when I came into Alto, one of the things I loved about this and doing my research, they had already experienced that training here. So, and actually, all of our campuses are national showcase schools, and then the district's the national showcase district, which is it's a great honor. And but that philosophy really kind of encompasses, like I said, it's kind of a framework for teachers, and it kind of starts like um, and I'd like to talk to all teachers out there, really, with every class, with every day, with every meeting, with every practice. What we want to do is be intentional about how you start it and how you end it. So um, in Capture Kids Hearts, it's a positive engage and then a positive launch. Um, our brain research shows that our brain remembers in concepts of time. So we want to always start positive and end positive. It creates, as a student leaves us or an adult through a meeting, that there's been that experience becomes more memorable because it's positive. So with that, um, I've done some other things. I had a good mentor that talked to me about a framework really called 252. Her name's Angela Myers, and she was actually a keynote speaker. And then I learned I dug a little deeper on that. It's real simple. Like the 252 framework would be, a positive first couple of minutes to be positive. We share good things, maybe non-academic, build a connection, and then the last 2 minutes are positive, like a good way to leave. And then in the middle, the five is affirmations. So, and much like Capturing Kids Hearts, when you look for the good, you're going to find the good. So, like that framework, really, I think, can shape every classroom. Teaching is a very demanding position. It's a challenge. It's rewarding, but it's challenging. So, if we always think about the stress that it brings, that just honestly makes it much more difficult for us to build connections with kids and be the best we can be. So I feel like if we look for the good, then you're going to find the good. John Gordon says it's impossible to be frustrated, and frustration in a classroom is not good. Not good for kids, not good for teachers. So, but John Gordon says frustration, you can't have frustration and gratitude at the same time. Our brain doesn't think that way.
Mm.
So when we look for positives,
Mm.
then it's going to make the learning environment and the culture in that classroom and carry over to every classroom. So when you say intentional, and then for me personally, I just love being around kids. So probably a little different than other educational leaders. I mean, I love being. I think the school day starts when at drop off. Just since I've been an administrator, I'm always there greeting kids, being and I love that time. I love the beginning of the day, the end of the day. I want that to be a part of it, and parents and community. I mean, I'm going to be visible, and then the other part is my other really favorite part of my day is what's going to happen in a few minutes is the cafeteria because that's a chance to just interact with kids, and you know, kids need us now more than ever, and I want to be there to to see things too and be proactive. I think your culture is about the details of how your visibility,
Yeah.
whether you're a teacher, whether you're an administrator, the more available you are, the more visible you are, the more you have a chance to be proactive. So
Mm.
uh, you can understand things in a better way if you're actually engaged, I guess is the best way to look at it. So I think the way I would say and be intentional is just intentionally make myself visible. I try to put a timeline on things that I have to when I need to be in a certain spot or when I need to be in my office. But it's all about time management. I think culture is about the details, and a lot of it is how am I prioritizing my time. So, and I go back to how I started earlier as the leader of the school or as the leader of the classroom, prioritize two things building relationships and inspiring growth. And if you're doing those things, and if you can finish that class, if you can finish that day and reflectively look back at what you did, and you did those two things well, and you stack those kind of days up over time, you're gonna not only have success, you're gonna love your job more.
Yeah. And I think I really appreciate the framework where you said that you could start with something positive and then end with something positive. I think that really impacts the student in the best way possible. You also talked about
And
making
I
yourself.
would add, I would add to that. I would add to that. Make it match your personality. What think about you want to take ownership of it. So there's a lot of ways you can do those two things. Just match how you want to interact with kids because we all have different personalities, but uh, teaching's all about it's all about well, you said it earlier, mentor. You're a mentor to every student. So what do I need to do to help build a connection and let them? I think it's really important. As we're answering this question about being intentional, I think teachers got to get to know their kids. They got to let them get to know other kids in the room to feel comfortable. But then the third thing is really they need to get to know you. So a lot of trust is developed in being authentic and just being open with kids, and you don't have to be perfect to be a great teacher. You don't have to be perfect to be a great leader, educational leader, but you can be really good if you can be genuine and be authentic.
Definitely, and I think being genuine and open to kids about just a little about yourself also helps foster that trust a little bit more in students. So that is amazing. You were also talking about teachers and how it can be a little frustrating at times. So, are there any specific practices or routine that you do to help your teachers feel supported, motivated, and empowered? And in terms of mental health as well, like sometimes burnout is very real. So when teachers feel that burnout, or even you, if you feel that way, how do you support yourself and your teachers during those times?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's the key is, you know, um, the details of being intentional, being, um, and giving yourself, prioritizing everything, but
Mm.
then also giving yourself some grace, a detail. And honestly, I think you got to match, what we started with when you talk about your why. You got to know what do you want to accomplish. I
Mm.
mean, because um, progress is not just about the kids, it's about you. I mean, so you're going to have, if you don't feel like you're making progress in what you're doing, there's going to be a time where you become overwhelmed, right? So I think knowing what you want to accomplish, having a measure to that too. So like internally, hey, look, I want to get this detail done because this helps me towards that goal. Okay. And I just feel like, I mentioned it just a minute ago, the details of, um, and that's a balance for me because like I have actually, I'm looking right now by my computer. I've got a big note that I've had for a long time that says get up and go visit classrooms because that's where it happens.
Mm,
But then I also have to prioritize my time to make sure I'm taking care of. There's a lot of detailed tasks that I'm honestly, I work to improve on because I need to know, um, and I'm speaking as a leader, you need to always know and be able to reflect on areas that you can grow because um, I feel my responsibility is to be responsible for all learning in this district in Alto.
mm,
But for that to happen, to me to really be the best I can be at it, I've
mm,
got to be the lead learner.
mm,
I've got to be the one that's still trying to learn.
mm,
And that's, you started earlier, you asked that question. The detail of it is I just always am trying to find a way to get better.
mm,
And that that excites me and that keeps me motivated because in education, just like today and in this conversation, hopefully I learn something from you, maybe, and we reflect on each other and maybe somebody can pick something up. But I think it's a craft that's so special because you never master it. And I just feel like that's the key is just knowing that there's always room for growth. Um, and then if you can model that for kids
mm,
and model that for other teachers, that's when your culture becomes something that makes everybody feel, just a kind of a unique, like one of the questions you asked earlier is just being proud and being, satisfied with what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
mm. And I think when kids see you or their teachers being someone who is consistently wanting to learn and grow, I think you model that for your students. So I think that is incredible. So we've spoken about the teachers, we've spoken about the students. I would love to know how is it that you engage families and the broader community as partners in your district's vision?
Well, one of the things right now is I think we need to, and I love being able to just share some of the things that we're doing, but I just think overall,
Mm,
I said this earlier on education. I mean, there are so many great things happening in education, and I
mm,
don't think we sell that enough. Being a teacher is a great job.
yeah.
It's one of the most rewarding things anybody can do is dedicate a portion of your life to serving others. And I think there's so many, like just right outside where my office, I can walk over and I will see something amazing happening. I know all the time,
Yeah.
and I don't think. I think it's my responsibility. It's a lot of in education telling that story,
Mm,
and I think that's how our families and our community believes in what we do is when they hear that story. And I love to be able. I think I, as being the leader, my responsibility is to share that. But there's so many things that happen. Again, being out and being engaged with kids, I see those things. I see the teachers connecting. I see the kids just giving effort and being proud. And those little moments are they're not just happening here, they're happening everywhere. And I think we got to promote those because when something negative happens, that becomes the story. And I think that's how we lose a lot of uh, our parent and community involvement is the trust. So
mm,
it's up to us too to be transparent, to be, you asked earlier about stakeholders, and there's a lot. If you're in a place like I'm fortunate to be in a place, there's a lot of community pride. Well, then I've got to the things that we needed to work on were just how do we communicate and align that we're all on the same path. And so, um, I think, making any, I think one, it seems simple, but just making everybody feel welcome here. It's one greeting, one interaction, one handshake at a time. And what happens, we have a lot of, and just like, with my previous school at Pine Tree, um, we have a lot of kids from poverty here. And so, and sometimes when that's the case, maybe they're the people that are raising them. It's possible that they didn't have a good experience in school. So I want them to feel welcome in our school and a part of the culture that we're creating, because they have they're going to spend more time with those kids. I figured it up once, and it was, we really have about 100, really about 160 plus days with kids. So you're talking about, let's look at a 9 hour day. Well, when you look at that, you take away time away from school for weekends, time on after school, sleep, a natural thing. We only, as a school, we only get the kids about 15% of their year, 15% of their year.
Hmm.
So we've got to, and we talked earlier about those soft skills of hard work, respect. So in that 15%, we've got to prove to our parents and our community that we are changing these kids and giving and making a difference. And then if they do that in that 15%, then maybe that carries over to that other 85. And I like one of my most proud moments, like I say, a lot of things are happening great at school, is when we see kids that are not with us, but I get observations. I had just this happen last week. A friend of mine saw a bus with our kids on it, and they were on a college trip, and he just texts me, and then he calls me, man, I just want to let you know those kids were so respectful and well behaved. Well, that's a win, and we don't know those little stories. Um, those are valuable because they're happening all the time. But you know, when kids do something that's not appropriate, that becomes the bigger news. And I think there's so much more positive than negative happening in schools. And I want our parents and our community to know that. And especially here at Alto, we got a great place. And, um, we always work to get better, but I think when they feel welcome here, they feel like not only they can, our doors are open for them, but then they also feel like they're a part of the culture. That's what makes it really fun, because um, then we are what the stakeholders tell me, we're aligned, and if we're aligned, that helps that 85% of the time that they have them, that they believe in us, and that they trust us. And then if they do that, then that's going to carry over to how their kids feel about us. And if they give us that same trust, that allows them to take chances in class and school and feel safe.
Hmm. So I think sharing those stories and even sharing and celebrating those small wins, such as just getting feedback from someone else that your students were being respectful, I think that is rewarding even for the teachers to know. I think also for the parents, so that they know that the children are spending their time well at school. So that is incredible. I want to shift this discussion a little to a trending topic nowadays, that is AI in education. So technology is becoming increasingly central in classrooms. What do you think about integrating AI and other digital tools responsibly in education and in your classrooms?
Well, I mean, we talked earlier about me being the lead learner for the district, and obviously, there's a lot for me to learn. Uh, and you gave me, and this is something that I mean, I can't in any way speak with a lot of experience or knowledge in AI. So I appreciate you sent me this question, and I did something. I just actually asked one of the kids I saw in the hallway earlier today. Talk to me about AI.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think she appreciated my question, but I just asked her. I said, "Hey, how would you say you use AI
Yeah.
as a student?"
Hmm.
I think she's the 10th grader.
Okay.
And she talked to me about, really, she went through it, and she had a lot of resources,
Hmm.
and she had what then I asked her, how do you find out about the resources, and she told me basically there's so many connections with social media,
Hmm.
and then that like if you need help, and I think it's a positive because it gives kids maybe that feel alone and they don't, especially you mentioned us being a small rural community. Well, technology really kind of allows us to be connected. So a lot of her social media, like she would ask somebody, "Hey, what's somebody I can use for help?" And then she told me that, and this gets to the AI, but if she needed an AI resource, that she would basically thought of her social media as collaboration. So other people were there to help her. And so it's hard for me to wrap my brain around this, but it kind of goes back to, okay, how do you get that? Okay, that takes work. I said two things we want to do is hard work and respect. And then respect is others. How do you present yourself to others, even if you're on a platform that uses social media or technology? But anyway, and then she talked to me about AI and how I said, how has it gotten better, like say since last year? And she said, yeah. And she gave me some examples of, I think the misconception on AI, if you don't really know a lot about it, is that it's just going to do the work for the kids, but it gives them, I think it gives them a platform, and it's exciting to see how maybe someone, especially like maybe somebody's got a learning disability, maybe that's doesn't have. We mentioned mentors earlier. That gives them that opportunity, and then um, she told me that she's picked up some things like even in the last month or so that she didn't know about, and how those things have even progressed. So I know AI's, we're just at the breaking the ice on what it can do. But yeah, I think, um, and again, I probably, uh, I didn't, I wouldn't have known really how to answer this question. I started unless I looked at it through the eyes of a student. But I know a couple of years ago when it was introduced, I know it's a revolutionary breakthrough that uh, we're looking at as part of not just education but overall. And um, you know, it's our responsibility as educators to be on top of that and be on top of what gives our kids the best chance to succeed. That's it. What gives our kids an edge? We talk about the details. If there's details in that edge, let's provide them with that and those tools because they're going to be. I mean, what there might be a job that they're 20 years from now. We don't even know what the job is. AI, there could be a job technology creates 20, 30, 40 years down the road. And we're preparing our students now for that to be successful and then their students. So, and their children. So, uh, at Alto, being a small rural district, it does present some challenges, but I actually think the technology is an equalizer, and it's up to us to give them the best resources they can to have a chance for success.
Yeah, that is a wonderful standpoint to be at. And I think what I'm hearing is that you are still learning about how to navigate AI. So I'm glad that you're not, anti-AI, and then you're still viewing it from a very curious perspective. So we love that. So the last question from my end is that are there any specific podcasts or books that you refer to when it comes to your leadership, or is there anyone that you look up to specifically? And if you could share that with our listeners.
That kind of goes back to technology. I try to do in my personal life. I think things happen, and I didn't always feel this way, but like growth happens through consistent habits.
Mm.
So I try to be intentional about some things that I'm doing. I'm learning. So I try to learn. I'm learning a new language, Spanish. So I do. I consistently have to do that each day. And with that, part of my learning process and part of what I do, and this, I start my day with a few things. One of them is reading. I try to read something every day, and then I try to reflect on what I read in writing. And then I try to listen to, there's so much out there in technology right now with podcasts. There's so many, it depends on what I'm looking for. Like I mentioned a few people earlier, you know, um, uh, there's Ryan Holiday with the Daily Stoic. There's Ed Milet. It's a positive. John Gordon. Um, just depends on what I'm looking for. And then if I could find something that inspires me, but then also has an opportunity maybe that gives me something. Like if they're interviewing somebody, I try to find maybe a guest that they're interviewing that gives could be beneficial for me in a leadership position or being an educator. So, but I love that because I mean I can I try to make that part of my morning routine, and so um, I hope um, that's it gives me I think growth happens in consistent habits, being intentional about them. The same thing like we mentioned with relationships, but for me, just doing a little bit consistently is how I've noticed the most progress in my life. So, one of the things, whether it is reading, learning a new language, or listening to that podcast, my ability to apply what I've done, after, but to give me what we talked about earlier, myself, and I think this happens for us all, is just giving us you know, a Tony Robbins says the key to happiness is progress. So if you're doing something consistent on a daily basis and being intentional about it, then you feel after a while you will feel the progress. And so I learned that I mean, we'll mention Tony Robbins, John Maxwell. One of my principals. I want to start. We're doing with the leadership team uh, one of the new books he has about leadership, and so and just being able to really I guess those people I mentioned. Anytime I can find another educator, the biggest thing is being a leader, being a teacher. Sometimes it's a lonely job. You want to find people that are do what you do, whether it's locally, and build a connection to them. And I think that can be somebody too that can always be beneficial. And then um, one of the things I think too is having to learn. You got to have and to grow. You got to have your own self awareness of what you can get better at. So there's people that you come into contact with on a daily basis that are better than you at certain things. So knowing that and being open to giving them opportunities to help you. So you mentioned who do I learn from? I think that you always find mentors in any ways. I think I hope this is a good way to answer that question. To truly to truly learn, I've read that it takes you want three things. You want somebody that you can mentor, okay, that you can grow. You want somebody that is helping you grow, okay, so somebody that's your mentor. And then the third thing, you want somebody that's doing the same job, things that you're doing, so you can push each other. Um, you look at like in time, the more if you have somebody that's that you can connect with that inspires you, then that get you that. And I think that's what our whole topic was building a culture inside the school, and I think that's what we really want to create a place that maximizes the potential of everybody, and that takes just all of us coming together with a common goal of changing the world for kids, prioritizing our mission, which is build relationships, inspire growth, but then really just knowing that every day when we come up, let's be the best versions of ourselves, not just for our growth, but to help others around us.
And I think consistency is the key. It can be difficult sometimes, but I think if you're consistent enough, that growth will also be sustainable with time. So that was incredible for us to know. So those were all the questions that I had from my side. We have this little segment where we have the previous leader that we've done a podcast with. They share a question for the next one. So the question that has come up for you is that when it comes to growth, both in terms of enrollment and community trust, what has worked best for getting your message out and bringing people in?
And that's a great question. Um, I don't know if I don't know if I have done that to
Okay.
the best of my ability. I think, and then if I have an opportunity, I try to make time for it. And I think our presence, our social media here, and I credit Amber Middleton's our one of our central office employees, and she does an incredible job because it takes a community. It takes all our leadership team, our teachers too, creating moments. But then, just looking at our social media and then my personal social media, I just try to put something occasionally to inspire others. But I don't know if I've done a good job of getting my message out, but I do. I think it's like you just mentioned, being consistent,
Mm-hmm.
being intentional. So, like, if I'm presented with an opportunity, which I have been fortunate to be involved with a lot of different great educators and instructional leaders that we could have conversations, and then sometimes maybe I've done a few conversations like this one, or been able to be at conferences and speak and present. And I just try to, if I do that, I think what works for me is always keeping the message. We used that word earlier about alignment and then consistency, but trying to keep the message consistent, and then hopefully that message resonates with somebody, and then um, because every time I remember the first time that I tried to kind of wrap my head around why I think that things that we do have been successful. I feel I have an obligation to share that. And then, but the first time I tried to do that, I wasn't very good at it. It's just like in going to, it's like the classroom. So
Mm-hmm.
every time you do it. So I would say to those asking, what gives me, it's just trying to reflect on the things that we discussed and make it better each and every time that you get a chance to deliver the
Mm-hmm.
message that you want to deliver.
Yeah. That is incredible, and just thank you so much for taking out the time to do this with us today. I think I personally learned a lot about how to build a sustainable community and also how growth can be sustainable when consistency comes in place. So, yeah, and I think our listeners will also appreciate this conversation. So, yeah, thank you so much for doing this with us today.
I appreciate your time. I really appreciate, and I'm impressed with your preparation. Very professional. And you said it earlier, and I want to mention one more thing because I think this is a big one. You mentioned books when you said that you said the word system,
Mm,
and I'd like to end with this. I think, in what I'm hoping to instill here, I think that we did this at Pine Tree. I want to continue to get better at it, at
mm,
really this message. Goals are accomplished by having the systems in place to make them happen. That's in Atomic Habits. James Clear was one of the big influences on me and how my professional and personal life. But I think a lot of times sometimes a goal can be overwhelming, but it's the system.
mm.
What system are you putting in place to accomplish what you want? So when you said that, that just triggered that, and I really think that's a good um, it's a good question. You mentioned what's a new question. I think when you reflect, what's the system that you're using to help you reach the goals that you want to accomplish? And that gives you, if you've got the system and you got the consistency, you're probably going to get there. So then, if you're able to get that, then what you're doing is going to be more sustainable because you're going to have that purpose. Because that progress is going to allow you to keep moving towards it. But the system, I feel sometimes systems are more important than goals. And so, what system are you having to help you create a learning environment that allows both you and those around you to maximize your potential? So, I appreciate you letting me share this, and I think these are very thoughtful questions, and I hope I'm very humbled to have this opportunity, and I take it with pride that I want to try to be the best I can be, and for what I do, and those around me here. But these opportunities and people like you that allow this opportunity for others and me to reflect and learn, I greatly appreciate it.
Incredible, and thank you so much for saying those kind words. And I think I learned a lot personally. And yeah, I think this has been an incredible conversation. So yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information about Tomo Club, visit Tomo Club or follow us on our socials. Stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.